So hello and welcome everyone to this program broadcast on Facebook and Twitter from, as you can see, the Council of Europe. In order to celebrate the Liberation Day, which you might know exceptionally this year is on the same day in the Jewish calendar, which is the 26th of the Jewish month Iyar, and on the 8th of May in the Gregorian calendar. So it's pretty much exceptional. And this program is initiated by the CER, the Conference of European Rabbis, and German Zachariaev, who proposed to include this day of commemoration of the Liberation Day in the Jewish calendar. And it is the fact, since 2018, it is now in the Jewish calendar. So let's have a journey together in order to think about what is the meaning of this celebration of the Liberation Day. In order to do that, on the set and from a distance, we have very prestigious speakers to talk about it. Let me introduce them. So here at the Council of Europe, we have Björn Berge, Deputy Secretary General of the Council of Europe. Welcome, Björn.
Thank you very much.
We have also Nathalie Rose, who is an international businesswoman, who is also the president of the NGO Les Cigognes. And you worked at Mars, and since last March, you were part of the executive committee of L'Oréal. Welcome, Nathalie. In the second part, joining us, we will have Daniel Hultgen, who is the special representative for the fight against anti-Semitism of the Council of Europe. So he will be joining us afterwards, right? And from a distance, we'll have, by some videos, we'll have German Zachariaev, so who is at the initiative of the project, as I just told you. We'll have Haim Korsia, who is Chief Rabbi of France. We'll have Marek Alter, who is a writer. We have Hassan Shalgoumi, Imam of Drancy. And finally, we'll have Israel Meir Lau, former Chief Rabbi of Israel. So let's start right in our journey with this first part. We'll have the first part, which be more about the inscription in the Jewish calendar of this commemoration of the Liberation Day. Let's think about it, the meaning. We'll talk about freedom, resilience, reconstructions, which is pretty much close to European values, as we will talk about it. In the second part, we will talk more about the world after. We will turn ourselves towards the future and think, what can we do now? How can this day influence our action now in the present? So, in order to do that, we'll have a first video from German Zachariaev, who is at the initiative of the project. And let me ask him a question. So, Mr. Zachariaev, why did you decide to initiate this holiday, and what were you guided by?
The entire free world was on the verge of extinction. The ideology of hatred swept across Europe. The cruelty of the Nazis was directed not only against the Jews, but also against everyone who stood in their way. The killing of ordinary people by the Nazis was considered the norm. Secondly, as far as I can remember, I wondered why us, Jews, celebrate all holidays, I mean, thanks to which we became free, where the divine miracle was manifested. But we do not celebrate Victory Day, May 9, 1945, and it falls on Iyar 26, 5705 by Jewish calendar. Why don't we celebrate Iyar 26 as Purim or Hanukkah? We know very well what these holidays are. Purim is a holiday when Haman wanted to destroy the entire Jewish world. Hanukkah, when the Romans wanted to destroy the Jewish spirit and the Jewish religion. And what happened on May 9th, 1945.
So, German, just another question we can add for you is like, how do we fix the risk of forgetting this date?
You can ask this question in another way. Why me? In 2014, when I thought about this, why we do not celebrate this event, I began to appeal to all Jewish spiritual leaders with a proposal to add this date to the Jewish calendar so that our future generations will remember it. We do not know what will happen in 50, 100 or 500 years from now, and how history will rewrite itself.
No, actually, we don't know how history will rewrite itself, as he says. And it took already 70 years to write it in the Jewish calendar, this commemoration of this day. We ask now a question to Chaim Korsia, who is the chief rabbi of France. It's like, what is the meaning and importance of marking this date in the Jewish calendar for you?
En France, nous avons cette célébration depuis toujours. Toutes les communautés juives de France s'associent aux célébrations du 8 mai, qui est effectivement pour nous le moment de la libération, le moment de l'aspiration à cette liberté chérie, celle qu'on célèbre à Pessah. Donc c'est pour nous de toute manière quelque chose de spirituel.
Thank you, Chaim. And now let's have a question for Marek Alter, who is a writer, and let's listen to his point of view on all these commemorations.
Pessah, on en parle. D'ailleurs, il y a un dialogue le plus court qui résume l'histoire. Man ishtana halayla halze. Quelle est la différence de cette nuit d'autres nuits? Et les pères ou les grands-pères répondent, Avadim chayinu, nous étions des esclaves. On a tout compris.
So, Björn, how do you consider this idea of commemoration? How does it resonate for you, or what do you want to say after listening all those statements?
No, first of all, I think it's very important, the initiative you have taken here today, because we should never forget. And the end of the Second World War was, as a matter of fact, also the beginning of the Council of Europe. The organization, which headquarter and which main building we are in today. And the Council of Europe was created after the Second World War for the purpose of never again to have this experience with aggressive, extreme nationalism, with the atrocities, the extreme hatred that we saw took place, and also with the unspeakable Holocaust. I mean, so the Council of Europe was established after the Second World War, and it has really been very, very helpful in building democracy and the respect for human rights and also the rule of law in all European countries since. So today, as a matter of fact, we have a very important system that protects the fundamental rights of individuals. And hopefully we'll never again be in a situation like we had in 1939, 1940.
And it might be pretty tricky to remember a day which, do we celebrate the atrocity? No, we also celebrate the victory, or we celebrate something else. So what do you think we are celebrating in this?
I think we are celebrating the start of something better, a new beginning. And to avoid this time of war and destruction in Europe again.
Thank you, Björn. Natalie, any reactions, any things you want to say when you hear all those thoughts?
My thoughts are at the end, I think the world is just one place. And when I hear Björn talking about Europe, when I hear the rabbis talking about religion, it makes it clear for me that at the end, what is true in one place is true in another place, like just the business. And just what you said about celebrating liberation, but celebrating respect, celebrating this idea of coming together for the peace. I think this is absolutely true. And even in business, if your mindset is about fighting against, you will never be sustainable, successful. It's much more about cooperation, working together, trying to find a benefit for all, rather than trying to fight against each other. Mm-hmm. And it is what resonates for me at this stage.
Because in business, we might say that it's sometimes hard to have like human values and financial values, cohabiting together. So how do you deal with this in the business area?
It's true that there is often some opposition that people try to make between human and financial performance. I feel exactly the same, and I've had the experience that it is exactly the opposite. What I love to do is exactly to create this impulse that creates sustainable financial performance through people. And in fact, if your business is focused on making a difference for humans, at the end you will have people paying for what you sell, if it's product or services. And this is what will make the business run, because people will really buy what you do, not because you just offer the best promotion, but because what you do has a meaning, is meaningful for them.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you, Natalie. Let's have some other videos, and then I'll come back to you. So let's now have a question to the former rabbi of Israel. So for him, a question of, can we celebrate such a date? Is it not inappropriate when you think of the survivors and all the victims? And when we asked, because he is the youngest survivor of Buchenwald, let's hear what he answers.
Look, I'm here on space as a survivor of the Holocaust, the youngest survivor of Buchenwald concentration camp in Germany. But indeed, all the Jews all over the world, then 76 years ago and today, are survivors of the Holocaust. Why do I say it? In Adolf Hitler's study was a globus. On the globus were written, many, many numbers in black ink on many, many numbers. Each country was a number. The mayor of New York, late Ed Koch, told me he saw it. He asked the guide, what are these numbers? He said Hitler gave an order that on the first day of the war, 1st of September 1939, they have to write exactly the number of Jews in each country in the world. Even one Jew in Albania, he didn't give up. And he will not finish the war until he will make the whole globus clean from all these numbers. No one Jew, including 6 million, were in the United States of America, 1939. So all the Jews in the world, and their children and great-grandchildren, they are survivors. They survived as my friend, Gabriel German, Zacharev, made this date of the 26th of Iyar, the Hebrew date of the end of World War II. Since then, we survived, all the Jewish people. Now you understand how important is this date. In the Hebrew date, not the May the 9th, but Iyar 26. Look, in the Jewish tradition, Jewish life, we made the Seder of Pesach. It's all survival. A nation who survived Pharaoh. Egypt of that time, 3,200 years, we sit at the table, we eat matzah to remember the Hebrew date of that survival. What is Hanukkah? The 25th of Kislev. We survived Antiochus Epiphanes, Judah the Maccabee. Look, now you understand. Zacharev is right. We have to point this date to emphasize that we all survived, and this is for the whole world a lesson, not to be apathic, not to stand on the blood. When you see something, when you know something, anti-Semitism, fight it, oppose it. Otherwise, we need more miracles. We have no power for more and more miracles. We want to live, we want to exist, and we want peace.
So a pretty much strong statement here. We all are survivors, yeah? Come back to you later. So this Liberation Day invites us to a commemoration, for sure, but is a celebration justified? And this is the question we asked to Chaim Korsia, who is the chief rabbi of France, and let's hear his answer.
Peu importe ce que les nations ont pu faire par la suite ou pendant la guerre, au fond, il y a eu une forme de conjonction d'espérance de bien pour libérer l'Europe, libérer le monde du joug du mal. Et le judaïsme se forge dans cette idée de reconnaissance. Être juif, c'est venir du mot Yehuda, Yehudi, qui veut dire je remercie, je reconnais. Et c'est vrai que je trouve que collectivement, le peuple juif sait que s'il y avait la libération plus tard, qu'est-ce qui serait resté de nous? Et on le sait en France, puisque par exemple, ça n'a pas été de la même manière partout en France, mais par exemple en Algérie, qui était la France à l'époque, on était à 2 semaines de l'imposition de l'étoile jaune à toute la population juive d'Algérie. Donc on voit bien que il y a eu quelque chose de l'ordre de ce que disent les prophètes. Il y aura un rameau qui sera sauvé de l'arbre de Jessé.
So it's all about celebrating life, isn't it? Are we breaking the mechanism of being a victim, and is it specific to our society? Let's hear what the Imam of Drancy, Hassan Shalgumi, tells us. And then I will ask you to react after this video. If you like, you will be invited. So let's hear of Hassan Shalgumi. Thank you.
Le plus important, c'est cette fraternité, cette union entre les peuples. C'est comme ça qu'on peut construire un peuple soudé par des valeurs et de paix, qu'il n'y aura pas ces extrémistes, qu'il n'y aura pas malheureusement la haine de l'antisémitisme et la haine qui anime le rejet de l'autre. C'est cette force, il faut que l'Europe et le monde entier s'inspirent de ça.
That was very short, but Björn, what is fighting against darkness and bringing light, and what is the role of the Council of Europe in this fight, we could say, or no, or do you want to express in other words?
No, I think it's still a fight. We have to be alert. We still, today, as we have seen also over several decades, it's a reoccurring theme. Discrimination, xenophobia, anti-Semitism. So we have to be alert and we have to work together. I think this is also very important. And this is what the Council of Europe is also about, working together to uphold the human rights, the respect for each other, to live together in harmony and peace. So this is the basic aim of this organization, and we just have to continue. I agree.
Yeah.
It's a struggle, and we should not lose sight of that.
Yeah, and when you're 47 countries, it's not easy, no, to get along and to accord yourself about what you want to do, how you want to do things.
No, we are 47 countries, but still there are certain fundamental values, principles, fundamental rights that we all agree upon, I think. So we agree, and we need to work together on these challenges, I think, today.
Yeah. Natalie, any example or whatever in your experience where this fight or this struggle for this darkness and light, I say it like this, it's a metaphor, of course, but any example or something that strikes your mind?
First thing is about the complexity of working together.
Yes.
And again, I think what just Björn said is very, very true also in the economic world, which is that the only way for large organizations like the one I was running with all countries in the world working together and thousands of employees, the only way to work together is to share values and a fundamental mission, to align on something you really want to do together. And I think this is also what this approach of marking this date in the calendar is about, is to talk about it, to rally everyone. And when I hear the Imam talking about it, I'm super, super happy to rally everyone around a mission, which is to bring values and peace in the world. I also loved very much what Raim Corsia said about gratitude. I think it's also a way to express our gratitude. And I feel like when you have this approach of being grateful to the positives of the world, you also recharge positively your energy. And it makes you much more powerful in everything you do. It gives you inspiration for making a difference in the world.
Yeah, I guess it's not only about remembering the bad times, but it's something to pull out of this, to turn towards the future. No, this is the second part we'll be in, but this is also the role of the Council of Europe. No, not only to think about bad things.
No, it's a platform. I think it's a platform cooperation, for discussion, for dialogue. Of course, we sometimes have different points of view, but here we can discuss. We can come to an agreement, and we can set the program and priorities and work together. As also Natalie said, is very, very important.
It's also celebrating resilience, because of course there are some times in life where you are facing difficulties which are far bigger than you can just face, and the Holocaust is clearly one. But it doesn't mean that you have lost everything. So you can always take some positive out of your experiences, and generally in life, fortunately, the difficulties are not as important than the one we've been facing during the Holocaust. So I think also making things into perspective and making sure that when people complain about everyday difficulties, they should understand that this is nothing. And we are all the owner of our destiny. And we can act. And we can overcome difficulties. It's not like something as huge as the Holocaust that we are facing. It's in our hands. We can do it.
Any lately achievements of the Council of Europe that comes to your mind or pop up in your mind? Maybe a little thing that hasn't got to be very huge, but something positive that just happened in the few last months?
I think there's a few. I think what we do in combating violence against women is crucial, and also sexual exploitation against children. And we have now come together, all 47 governments, and agreed on and ratified a convention, the Lanzarote Convention, on combating sexual violence against children. This is really something, and when all the governments in Europe come together like this, we will have an impact. And also through the pandemic, of course, we have seen increased levels of violence against children and also against women. So this is highly relevant in today's Europe also. So this is important aspects of our work, and should be better known maybe also. So it's good to talk about it here today.
That's what we are doing, no? So in order to make it known a little bit better. Now we have it's the end of the first part. So thank you, Björn Berge, unless you want to add something, or you're good?
Only to say that we should be grateful also for living in Europe, because the protection we have as individuals for our fundamental rights, it's unique. You don't find that in any other continent of this world.
Yeah.
And this is thanks to the whole convention system, to this organization, and also that we have a court. And the possibility also for every individual in Europe today to launch a last appeal to this court in Strasbourg.
Yeah.
And the member states and the governments are obliged to implement the judgments from this court. So we have a unique, unprecedented system in Europe to protect the human rights of each one of us. And this we should never forget, and we should be grateful also for that.
Yeah, well, we are grateful. And thanks very much, Björn Berger, for hosting us here in the Council of Europe for this program. And wish you good luck for the next project and everything.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Björn.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll welcome now Daniel Heltgen, Special Representative for the Fight Against Anti-Semitism of the Council of Europe. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you. So now the second part, after the first part was more about the commemoration, about remembering, about the sense of this day. And now let's face the future and let's talk about the world after. What can we do? How can we fight against anti-Semitism? And how can we change the world? And about youth education. This is what we'll talk about in the commemoration of the Salvation and Liberation Day. So here comes the second part. To begin this second part, let's have a little video from Haim Korsia, who is the chief rabbi of France. And he will open the exchange by this idea of the world after. Let's hear what he has to say.
Le Conseil national de la résistance se réunit et dit qu'est-ce que sera le monde d'après? Ok, on veut être libre, on rêve de liberté, on combat pour la liberté. Mais qu'est-ce que ça veut dire être libre? Pourquoi faire? Et le Conseil national de la résistance pose les bases de la société de la reconstruction. Et je me dis, c'est ça l'espérance. C'est peu importe la situation qu'est la nôtre aujourd'hui, c'est se projeter déjà dans le futur. C'est une confiance absolue en Dieu, en nos textes et en notre responsabilité. Chaque Pessah, on dit Bechol dor vador omdim alenu lechalotenu. Chaque génération, quelqu'un se dresse pour nous exterminer. Mais Akadosh Baruch Hu matzilum yada, mais c'est l'Éternel qui nous sauve de leurs mains. Donc il y a des ennemis, mais on a eu des ennemis. Et se rappeler cette date du 8 mai, c'est se rappeler qu'on a eu les ennemis les plus terrifiants qui soient. Et pourtant, Dieu nous a permis d'être là. On aurait voulu que ce soit un plus grand nombre, mais Dieu nous a permis d'être là pour que nous puissions rebâtir, reconstruire, réespérer, refonder des synagogues, refonder des communautés, réouvrir des écoles juives, enseigner aux enfants et que nos enfants, les enfants de nos enfants puissent porter ce témoignage. C'est cela notre responsabilité et c'est l'assurance qui est la nôtre. Donc célébrer le 8 mai, c'est aussi célébrer tout ça, cette espérance, cette confiance en Dieu et en l'homme.
So 2 more videos before I come to you, Daniel and Natalie. On the same topic, we have Imam Shalgumi of Drency, who also spoke about this subject of the world after. Let's listen to him.
Qu'est-ce que nous, on peut faire, nous les hommes éclairés? L'Europe, quand même, c'est la terre de droits de l'homme. L'Europe qui a résisté face aux nazis, face malheureusement à cette période sombre de Deuxième Guerre mondiale. Je pense que nous, on s'inspire que les valeurs humaines, que lutter contre les discriminations, contre le racisme, contre l'inégalité, contre la haine, contre l'antisémitisme, le rejet des autres, cette force universelle, ces droits de l'homme, ces valeurs, c'est ça qu'on peut changer et on fait bouger les lignes dans le monde.
All right, 2 religious people. Now let's have a writer. Let's have the opinion of Marek Alter. How can we engage the world of tomorrow through this idea of freedom? Let's hear now.
Votre idée d'introduire dans les calendriers comme une sorte d'obligation, un rappel continu, permanent, un jour où on réunit les enfants dans les écoles et on leur explique ce que c'est la liberté. Les enfants, c'est quoi la liberté? Ah, c'est pour pouvoir taper sur mon copain. Non. Là, c'est la fin de la liberté. Expliquez, pourquoi c'est la fin de la liberté?
So this idea of freedom, like do I want to hit my neighbor? Well, in COVID time, it's not very easy because with the distance, no, it's not very easy to do. But what are your thoughts or reactions to what you hear about education or things like that? Daniel, might be, you want to start?
Yes, indeed. When I think of this reconciliation, I think of the responsibility that we have had after victory. Victory over the darkness, now freedom. We have to preserve that freedom. And we have to preserve a Europe, a world without hate. And this is where my new responsibilities come in as anti-Semitism representative of the Council of Europe. Unfortunately, we're seeing a rise again in anti-Semitism.
Since what, since 4 or 5 years?
We would say since the emergence of the internet,
yeah,
and since the spread of anti-Semitism on social media. And I would say, as some other observers, that possibly over the last 5 years, we've seen the worst anti-Semitism since the Nazi era. And this is because these social media spread messages and hate messages so quickly, so rapidly.
Yeah.
Just allow me to give you a figure.
Sure.
Since January, in Germany, Twitter distributed 15,000 hate messages of anti-Semitic nature. Facebook, 10,000. And on Telegram, a new social media, 40,000 hate messages were spread, which were distributed and retweeted 1 billion times. And much of that content was blatantly illegal under German law, as it would be also under French law. So these figures show that there is a new danger. It's always been there, but now it's been magnified. And this is what we need to fight together to preserve the victory over darkness.
Because you said to me just before also there is a link between what's going on internet, just the words, the ideas and so on, and the facts on the field, like what people are doing really, no? There is a link.
This is what concerns us, that this is not simply a spread of hatred in the internet. It leads to hate crimes. And to come back to my German examples, for example, when there was the attack on the synagogue in Halle in 2019, the perpetrator was influenced by the internet, what he saw. And only 3 months later, there was an attack on Muslims. 9 people died in the city of Hanau. And the perpetrator was again influenced by hatred on the internet. He even actually wanted to film his act of violence. So there is no doubt about it. Today, there is a link between hate online and actions, as there was at the beginning of the Nazi era. What happened before the Holocaust was the word. When the word was evil, it influenced people, and the word leads to acts. And this is my fight and the fight of the Council of Europe, and indeed most European organizations, against hate speech online. It is so important to educate children and young people about the internet, the dangers, and to stop this. And for this, we need rules.
Yeah, and as the Mark Halter said, it's not only about saying what is the danger, but it's also to promote values like freedom, like what is freedom, no? And this is really important too.
Absolutely, and the Council of Europe has been working on these values and promoting them, for example, in a no hate speech campaign that we've had for many years. But now we see, nonetheless, that hate is spreading, so we need clear rules. And this is why there have been attempts at legislation, some successful in France and in Germany, and now at the European Union level, the Digital Service Act. Because, let me put it simply, we have again a discussion between rights of freedom of expression and hatred. But freedom of expression ends where hate begins and people are being attacked and killed. And this year again, in Germany in 2020, there were 2,300 anti-Semitic attacks, up again 100 in comparison to last year. In France, the figure is a little lower, but also the last years have seen an increase. And I know where to blame it on. It is the spread on the internet as a major factor, and this is why we need clear rules. And those rules, if I may add, need to be made in Europe. Our rules, our laws are not made in Seattle. They're not made in San Francisco. They're made here in Europe. And this is why we've got to stop this menace here in Europe.
Thank you, Daniel. Natalie, when you hear all this, in in the business, well, you're not only a businesswoman, you're also a citizen, of course. But how does it resonate in the business thing, like the rise of aggression, the rise of hate speech? Do you see that also in the business areas, or how is it?
The more I think about this idea of putting this date in the calendar, the more I like it. And especially this idea from Marie-Calter to put it as a day for education, a day when everyone worldwide will talk about freedom in schools, I think is key. It's also talking about responsibility.
Yeah.
And I'm totally aligned with what you say. It is our responsibility as individuals to make sure that we maintain these values of freedom and respect and tolerance. You know, it starts with our behaviors. I think in business, in our companies, in the business is exactly like at home. The kids don't do what you tell them to do. They do what they see. So our behaviors as adults, as citizens, as leaders in the business, as leaders in politics, this is what is going to make a difference. So it's about the way we act. It's the responsibility that we have every day to demonstrate our behaviors. And we talk a lot in companies today, large corporations, about diversity and inclusion. It's like a mandatory box to tick in the way you hire people, in the way you communicate in advertising, etc. But it's not that. It's about really creating additional value in the company. Because when you have different ways to look at things, when you have different backgrounds, when you are different from origins, from gender, this is how you can look at things in different ways and make sure you take the best decisions. And I think what is true in the business is true everywhere. But again, we have to demonstrate by our own behaviors what we believe in. We can't tell people.
Yeah, we do what we see, but isn't it hard also because in the education, for example, you have like, okay, many hours at school and so on, or at home, but you have so many hours on internet about Facebook, about whatever, the social networks. And,
yes,
and you have hours of hate speech, fake news or whatever. It's hard to fight that, no?
But why does this start? Because children have heard things, have seen things, which has led to this type of behaviors. So this is why the adults are responsible. And it's not just at school. School is one of the opportunities to talk about it. But the most important are the parents and the whole environment. So again, it's about us as individual adults. And whoever we are, if we are a politician, if we are a business leader, if we are a rabbi, if we are an imam, we bear this responsibility of demonstrating in our behaviors that we are truly respectful of others and that we understand that if another guy here has a problem, it can be you tomorrow morning. It's not just about looking at the poor Jews or just not taking care about the Jews. Okay, anti-Semitism, okay, it's not me, it's not a problem. Tomorrow it's you. And this is a collective responsibility.
Daniel, I can see you nodded a lot of times. You agree?
I like very much what you said about added value and how companies think of their added value. I think we need to think about what is the added value of our state, take France, what is the added value of Europe. And of course, the main added value of Europe today is that we can live in peace. And the second most important added value is that we live together in respect of our diversity. And this is the education that we've got to start right from the beginning, from the small kids to those who are influenced on the internet and elsewhere. Respect for diversity. This is, I would say for me, the most important value after the securing of freedom and our liberty that we have here. And that is the added value of our state in which we live in and the continent on which we live in. And that is the added value, as Bjorn Berger said, that we in the Council of Europe want to protect.
Well, thank you. I'll come back to you very, very soon. Now, let's, regarding education of young people, this is what we were talking about. So here is the Imam Shalgumi, what he thinks about it. And yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Oui, cette jeunesse, c'est notre avenir. Cette jeunesse, il faut lui donner autant de valeur et d'éducation. Il faut donner de l'espoir, du respect de l'autre, de la lutte contre les extrêmes. Ça, je pense que ça, c'est l'objectif. L'éducation à une éducation de lumière, de paix et d'amour, ça, c'est l'avenir qui peut préserver l'Europe contre la division et contre aussi les futurs néos, malheureusement, nazis, antisémites, racistes, aussi qui sont remplis par la haine et la division.
Well, this is mainly the same thing we were talking about, but any reaction? You want to add something to this education process? Or?
If I may, I think it's such a great idea to have the Imam speaking here. We're talking about a year in the Israeli calendar, and we're talking about the past and fighting anti-Semitism. I think it's such a great opportunity to have the Imam speak. And in fact, I'm just as concerned with the rise of anti-Muslim hate speech as somebody in my area of work once said, it's two sides of the same coin.
And this is in your title, actually.
It is.
Your complete title
and it is.
Yeah.
And the killer who went after the synagogue in Halle, when he couldn't get in through the synagogue doors, he says to himself, then I will look for Muslims, then I will look for migrants. And it's two sides of the same coin. Yeah. Historically, it is different, and it is a different dimension in Europe, but they have just the same right to be protected from the kind of hatred that we see today.
Yeah. Like Natalie, you said, no, it's not me, it's not my concern, but can be me tomorrow, no?
Yes.
Sorry, you wanted to add something.
No, it's exactly this, and clearly education makes a huge difference. And I'm just remembering in 2014, there has been a huge demonstration in France against Jews, like mort aux Juifs in the street, things that we had not heard for long. And at that time, I was the CEO of L'Oréal Germany. I was living in Germany. And I remember that there has been one demonstration in Germany, and just one, because Angela Merkel cut this radically. And again, I think it starts with the top of the pyramid. And in a country where discipline is demonstrated around values, you can make a huge difference. And when I'm talking about education, I remember as well that we had this problem in France that there could not be a minute of silence in schools because some teachers did not dare having this minute of silence in their classrooms because of some Muslims in the classroom. So why so important that we are doing this kind of initiative together with other communities, not just the Jews on one side, but really all together. And in Germany, I remember they were shocked to hear that coming from France. And some of my team members told me, at school, we've done Holocaust every year, from 8-year-old to 18. Yeah. Every year, it was just, the program was about Holocaust. So we know, we can't say we ignore. Yeah. So it's important that we continue to teach, we continue to transmit the memory of the history. Because everybody knows that if you don't remember your history, you may replicate the same mistakes. So it's definitely a responsibility on educating and transmitting the values to the next generation.
Yeah, thank you. We'll come back once more. Let's have now an intervention of German Sorokhiev. How do you think this message for you, for the world, what humanistic principles does it pursue? And how important is it for the whole world to express this recognition of this Liberation Day?
And third, if we talk about the human factor, then my message is that everyone who made at least some contribution to the salvation of mankind from Nazism, deserve gratitude and to be remembered for all time. For Jews, this day is a kind of Thanksgiving Day for the people of the world, those who did not close their eyes and ears and fought the Nazi monsters for the victory over which many of them paid with their lives, for which the Jewish world will always be grateful to them.
So it's about to remember all this time, but it's also to say thank you to the people who saved the situation and who lead to victory. Any reaction to this sentence or moments, what we remember and how we go forward to the future?
If I may,
sure.
I am in a way the product of reconciliation. My mother was English. She hid from German bombs. She grew up with Germany as the enemy, and 10 years later she married a German. So there was some reconciliation there.
Yeah.
And so we need to preserve this, as I said at the beginning.
And the family was not happy at the beginning, you said,
no? The family was not that happy, but we don't talk about that. I'm happy, and my family is happy.
Yeah.
And we're luckily living in a state of peace today. If I may say one thing that our former Secretary General said to the European Conference of Rabbis at its conference in Berlin, after some controversy about religious practices, he said, and this was strongly backed by Angela Merkel, we, the Council of Europe, and the countries of the Council of Europe, including Germany and France, will always protect Jewish life and Jewish religion in Europe. And we are guarantors for Jewish life and Jewish religion. And those words are as important as they were a couple of years back when Torbjörn Jagland spoke those words, as they are today, facing new challenges online and offline.
Any reaction, Natalie?
Maybe just to conclude from my side, I really want to thank Daniel and the European Council, because I think typically Europe has the power to bring these values to the world. And just by this story, just your personal history that you are talking about, I think we are here in Europe the demonstration that it's possible to live together. And this is indeed the only way to live in a peaceful world together. And so this message, I really want to thank you for conveying this message to the world. It is absolutely important.
Daniel, sure.
Oh, I'm speechless. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for hosting us also, and thank you for everything what is done. Any lately achievements that comes to your mind in your specific field?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you
Something that
for allowing
happens?
me to use this channel. Only a few weeks ago, I brought to all the ambassadors here of the Council of Europe, the ambassadors of the 47 member states, somebody and an organization which I think is unique. It's the French Union of Jewish Students, the UEGF.
Okay.
And Noémie Madar, who is the president of this organization, told of her case and the Union of Jewish Students in France and some other NGOs against social media to bring hate speech down. This organization already brought a case successfully in 2011, and after a court decision in Paris, this brought Twitter and others to put notifying apps, notifying buttons on their applications, which is a concrete achievement. And I think through the work of young people, such as the UEGF, which was reported here to 47 ambassadors, we are on the right track with the social media. There is more responsibility, more reactiveness, and we see we are improving the situation as far as those platforms are concerned. So that was a very important achievement, not mine, but of somebody who was active in Paris, young people, and they brought it before the 47 member states.
Yeah, so that's full of hope.
Absolutely.
And with the COVID crisis, it's not easy. Also, the anti-Semitism acts rise also because of that, no? Or linked to that anyway?
Yes, also COVID has had its impact on many bad things.
Yep.
But I think we're gradually on our way out. And there are very positive signs that Europe is addressing this issue, this menace, and I hope successfully. And I hope if we have the opportunity to speak in 1 year, then we will see these figures going down and hopefully also the attacks going down.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Natalie, for your very interesting testimony and your thoughts. Thank you all for staying with us until the end of this program. And thank you to the Council of Europe for hosting us here in this beautiful place. So wish you good luck, wish you a good day, and of course, I wish you a good Salvation and Liberation Day. Thank you.